information, that kind of good judgment exercised by a security guard, it's going to take them a long way, and it's going to protect them in terms of what the employer expects them to do.
What guiding principle can you offer security officers who might have some question about what authority they do have?
Again, they have to ask questions, and they need to get good legal advice when it's available. I think, first of all, if you attend classes that will train you in what your duties are or what laws apply to you as a security guard, ask questions of your employer about what's expected of you, and get a good rapport with the police so that when you have questions about activities and whether they're criminal or whether they're not, you don't have to always use your own judgment. In fact, when a police officer comes on the scene, he or she is going to make an independent judgment about whether or not a crime has been committed. So, in a sense, be their eyes, be the ears for not only the police officer when they're taking their report, but also for the courts. Ultimately, many of these cases, or some of these cases, will end up in court. And a good job done by a security officer is going to go a long, long way to not only protect the interest of your employer, but also see to it that the criminal justice system works when it's necessary to put it to work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Port.
We are now going to look in on Mr. Ken Nasworthy. Ken has been in the security business all of his life. We'll be viewing a portion of a typical interview. Now, during this portion, Ken will be outlining some of the primary roles of security officers, along with their typical tasks and assignments.
Mr. Nasworthy, your 11 o'clock is here.
Please send them in.
I've never been a security officer before. What can I expect that I'll be doing most of my time?
Mainly to deter, prevent, and detect theft, fire, and accidents.
Well, what basic tasks will I be spending my time with?
Your basic tasks will be to observe, report, and this will involve being alert, paying close attention to your work site, observing the unusual, and writing clear, accurate, and thorough reports.
What are some of the typical assignments that I can expect to get from your company?
Security work involves a variety of duty assignments. A few of these are walking on foot patrols of large indoor or outdoor areas, stationary posts at schools, hospitals, factories, or office buildings, vehicle patrols of several different locations, controlling pedestrian or vehicle traffic, entering or leaving a site, inspecting doors, windows of a building to make sure that all is secure, watching for and preventing fires, enforcing clients' rules and regulations, providing information and assistance to the public, and signing in visitors.
Well, how can I do a good job as your security officer of your company?
Well, a few of the things I'd recommend are, 1, be on time, be in a proper uniform, don't be afraid to ask questions, familiarize yourself with your post orders, always remain alert, complete reports properly, take proper care of your equipment, be polite, and be sure and follow directions.
Where do I go from here now?
Well, at this point, you will undergo a thorough background investigation, and if everything is satisfactory, you will be scheduled for pre-assignment training. If you pass this, we'll uniform you and discuss possible assignments. Upon assignment, you will then be given on-the-job training.
Thank you very much again. Is there any parting advice that you can leave me with before I go?
Yes, always understand what it is that is expected of you at each work site before assuming duties. In other words, ask questions when anything is unclear. And thanks for coming in.
Now, during this next section, we'll be taking a specific look at just how you can help avoid liability for yourself, your company, and your client. Steve DiGiulio, a practicing attorney for the firm of Foster, Pepper, and Scheffelman, will offer a few pointers on just how you can avoid liability.
Liability. Exposing yourself or your company to civil or criminal lawsuits because of negligent or intentional conduct which result in damage or loss to another person. Liability equates to responsibility, and in your position, you are being asked to maintain responsibility for not only yourself, but for the property or the people that you are being employed to care for. Liability can arise not only as a result of your wrongdoing or your failure to act, but also on a contract theory, We don't think about that theory of liability to any great extent. But remember that your employer is in the business of providing security services. Your employer contracts with another. And if you fail to comply with your duties under that contract, your employer may be liable not only for negligent damage, but also contract damage. In that, let me read briefly from the general rule that governs this area. There is implied in every contract for work or services to be performed that the work is to be performed skillfully, carefully, diligently, and in a worker-like manner. Failure to comply with such an implied duty to perform in a skillful and worker-like manner may entitle the contracting party to damages. Your employer is asking you, the security guard, to follow through with the contracting responsibilities. We're not going to talk any more about contracts in this segment, but rather about that conduct that might expose you and your employer to liability. 10 examples are only a few of the number that might give rise to such liability. Excess force is one that we commonly think of, and the term that comes to mind is assault. But assault does not only include the physical touching, a hit or a physical harm. In fact, under the common law, assault did not require a touching. That was known as a battery. An assault is the threat of harm. The terms assault and battery are now commonly merged into the phrase assault, or a phrase that we use, excessive force. Another example of liability that you should be concerned about is false arrest. A separate theory, the unlawful holding and seizure of another person. In other areas, you need not even arrest, formally hold somebody under law. In some jurisdictions, unlawful detention may also give rise to liability. Of course, you're aware of unlawful search and seizure, the seizure of property, the unlawful searching of someone as a theory that can give rise to liability for you or your employer. We think of those criminal areas of liability, but what about ignoring your prescribed duties? Failure to adhere to those duties may also give rise to damages, and you yourself can be held responsible for such damages. Under the theory of negligence, two areas come immediately to mind. The first is the inappropriate or negligent use of motor vehicles. We hope that you will not be in a situation where you will be tempted to engage in a chase. You have heard in other segments of this training program about the proper use of vehicles. The proper use of such vehicles does not include engaging in reckless conduct, chasing after another. Those are for the authorities, not for you. Similarly, the inappropriate use of weapons. The inappropriate use of weapons, whether it be a gun or a nightstick, mace, or any other weapon that you are authorized to carry or to use in a given circumstance. Those should be used only as a last resort and to protect yourself, not to go after others. In the state of Washington, the Constitution of this state recognizes specifically a right of privacy. And so we are very much concerned that your conduct does not give rise to an invasion of those rights of privacy. And a 10th area of liability, defamation. The untrue oral or written statements which are damaging to another. 10 examples, but creative legal minds are going to give rise to other theories. And as a result of that, you need to always be careful as to what you do. And in this program, I want to touch on 7 points that will assist you in avoiding liability for yourself and for your employer. Those 7 points are very simple. 1, act within your authority. 2, Follow your directions. 3, be consistent. 4, respect your client's property. 5, be alert to the consequences of your action. 6, be in control. And 7, be accurate in your reporting. Let me go over those very briefly. 1, you've been told and instructed as to the limits of your authority. Adhere to that authority. Remember that your power and strength is in the quality and accuracy of your observations and reports, not in the exercise of specific authority. 2, become familiar with the orders at your post. Do adhere to duties and schedules. Don't take shortcuts or invent your own policies and procedures. For example, a cycle of inspections, if it is to take 10 minutes, use 10 minutes, not 5. That jogging among assignments is not going to perform the service that you've been hired to do. 3, treat everyone in a consistent manner. Be courteous and fair. You can be firm, but you cannot discriminate against others. That kind of conduct will do nothing but give rise to lawsuits against you. 4, respect your client's property. Computer keyboards, electronics, vehicles, stay away from them. Leave your client's property in the same fashion as you found it at the beginning of your shift. 5, think about the consequences of your action. Your action is going to be supervised, scrutinized by others later. 6, be in control. You are hired to be in control and not lose control. Don't overreact. There are others, the officials, who are responsible for that. And that leads to the 7th point. Write thorough and accurate reports. I know, the least favorite part of your job, but the most critical part. Finally, and of course this should go without saying, no illegal conduct on or off duty. Summarizing very briefly, act within your authority. Follow the directions that you've been given. Be consistent. Respect your client's property. Think of the consequences of your action. Be in control and write good and thorough reports. These 7 steps will assist you in preventing liability for you and your employer.